Hey everyone, I'm Marina and I'm here to share with you what I've been working on this week. So it's been 2 weeks again since the last time I talked to you, and I actually had a stomach bug run through my house, and luckily not all of us got sick. I didn't get sick, and a couple other of my family members. It was mostly my little kids, which was really sad. So I have been caring for children as well as cleaning up. So we're just going to leave that there. I don't think anyone wants me to go any further, but I'm sorry I didn't record last week, but it just means I have more to share with you. So I do want to share with you the final skeins that I spun up during Tour de Fleece this year, and I had 2 more skeins that I was able to finish. The first one was this Tunis fleece that I had done. It was a partial fleece, it wasn't an entire fleece, but I did finish this finally, and yeah, I am happy the way that it turned out. I am not going to go into all of the not drama, it wasn't drama, it was just difficulties that I had with it. This was a washed fleece that I purchased. It was a partial fleece, and it had so much VM in it, and I felt like it was just a very difficult, it was very difficult to work with. I tried several different techniques and I learned a lot. So I guess at the end of the day, that's kind of what matters, because I know that most likely the next fiber fleece that I work on will probably not be this difficult. But as difficult as it was actually really fun to spin, and I could tell that the fiber, this wool is very elastic, and it wanted to be such a fun fiber. It really did. It's just, it had issues. So anyway, this is American Tunis. It is definitely a rare breed, and I started off with a washed fleece, which in hindsight I probably should have washed again, but it had a lot of VM in it. I used a box picker to try and just sort through it, maybe pick out or have a lot of the VM fall out, and I did. The more I processed it, the more VM fell out, but I still have some in there. I mean, I still could sit here and pick out hay and just things. I really struggled getting it all out, but I ended up using a box picker, like I said, and that helped greatly reduce the work. Then I put it through my drum carder. I have a little tiny drum carder. It's a Brother, I think it's called a baby carder. It's the smallest one they make, and I just don't have room right now for a larger drum carder. I'd love one. I would love a drum carder, but it's just not it's not feasible right now. So I actually put this through my drum carder 3 different times, which helped so much. But as you can tell, there are a ton of little neps and second cuts that have really made this, there's just nothing, I don't know how else to describe it besides that it's very neppy. It has lots of neps, and you know what, it's going to either knit up or weave up awesome though because of that. It has a lot of character. So I did write a card. This was my 10th skein for Tour de Fleece this year, and it ended up being 154 grams and 254 yards. So I think that this would end up just being a very nice accessory, or in weaving, something woven. It is actually very soft, and I ended up washing it after I processed it, spun it, plied it. I ended up washing it probably 3 more times because it was very dirty. I am a newbie at processing from the start, so I think that, again, I've learned so much from this, and I will know now, okay, this is really dirty. This is what a dirty fleece feels like. So anyway, I am glad that I washed it up. It looks so much cleaner. And yeah, so it eventually someday it will end up being something great, but it was a very good learning experience. Like I said, it's very soft and squishy though, so it would make a great accessory or something down the line. So that was skein number 11, or excuse me, skein number 10. And then I did pull out one of the skeins from my stash that I think I shared with you on an earlier episode. And this was a beautiful fiber dyed by Woolfiend, and it is called Calamity. And Emily dyes up a lot of kind of darker tones, but this was a beautiful, beautiful kind of, it had a good balance of moody darks with pops of brights. And I don't know close up if you can really see all of those gorgeous pops of color, but there is so much color in this fiber, and I loved it. I loved spinning this. This was a South American wool, which I've never spun before. Love it. Would totally spin it again. It was an easy spin. It was a fun spin. I loved every minute of it. And I worked on doing a fractal 2-ply barber pole. I'm trying to see, on my note card here, I just wrote that I split it lengthwise into strips. I don't think I just needed kind of a mindless, fun spin, something that was going to end up being really pretty. And it's definitely I would say, worsted plus weight yarn, because it is, let's see, 126 grams and 151 yards. So definitely more of like a bulky weight yarn. I think this would be stunning in a hat, like absolutely stunning for a winter hat, because it is just, the barber pulling on it is gorgeous, absolutely gorgeous. And I'm really happy with the consistency. I just think it turned out really pretty. So this was skein number 11, and the wool is very soft. I kind of imagined South American wool. I don't know why, I just imagined it being a little more rustic, maybe something you couldn't wear close to your skin, but I think it turned out awesome. So was so incredibly happy with this. And so that's where I ended up with Tour de Fleece. And I need to get a picture of all of the yarn that I spun, because I spun up a ton of yarn, and really proud of all the yarn that I spun, because a lot of it was not necessarily something I really wanted to spin. It was deep stash, and so I felt like I got a lot accomplished, and really cleared out a lot of my stash, which is so great. I'm very happy about it. That being said, I started knitting with some of the yarn that I actually spun up during Tour de Fleece. So as you may know, I dyed this yarn with my daughter, and it was Rambouillet. It was several months ago, and I spun up the skeins during Tour de Fleece, and it ended up, I can't exactly remember, I think it was close to 1,000 yards of a decayed worsted. That's what it ended up being. And I had a pattern all kind of lined up that I was going to use, and then once I started looking at the numbers, so this is, I just wanted a top-down raglan sweater for my 9-year-old. She's very petite, and the sweater, it looks way smaller than it actually is, but I really wanted just a top-down raglan, very simple sweater to show how pretty all of this yarn is. It's just gorgeous. So I did have a pattern picked out, and I ended up looking at the numbers, and I knew that it wasn't going to work with the numbers just because of the thickness of the yarn. So then I remembered the Flax pullover by Tin Can Knits, and it's a great beginner sweater pattern, and just kind of a I think think I have this backwards. It's a great sweater pattern and just kind of all around like great template for sweaters. It comes in so many different sizes, and I think it's free even. So yeah, so I pulled out the Flax pattern and just kind of used that as a jumping off point and started knitting. I ended up knitting what did I knit? I started off with the 6 to 8 year size because I wanted the neck to be a little more fitted on top. I added short rows, which are not in the pattern, I don't think, but I just added some German short rows for short rows in the back, and then I ended up doing the increases for a size 8 to 10. So this is what it looks like, and isn't this fun that it's striped? Like it didn't even occur to me that it would be striped the way that I spun it, but obviously it does make sense the way that we dyed it. It makes sense. So this is just turning out so fun. And how I did this is that the body of the sweater was one skein, and then even though I didn't use the whole skein, I jumped to the second skein for the sleeves. And I'm glad I did that because how I spun this is I spun 1/2 of the colored wool, the variegated wool, and then 1/2 of just the mint green wool. I spun that quite a while back, and then for Tour de Fleece I ended up spinning the other halves, and they ended up both being very not very much thinner, but they were thinner than the original the first skeins that I had spun. So what ends up is I applied the slightly thinner mint green with the slightly thicker variegated, and vice versa. So what happened is this just has slightly more color than the sleeves, and it's not really noticeable. I don't even know if you can tell on camera. Perhaps you can. The stripes are going to stripe up differently because there's just less fabric in the arms. So the stripes are definitely going to stripe up differently, but these are just a little more lighter minty green than the body of the sweater. And I have made so much progress on this. As a matter of fact, I ended up having both sleeves nearly finished. And last night I looked at the sweater and I was going to switch needle sizes for the rib. I ended up doing a 2x2 rib for the sleeve and realized I had knit the entire second sleeve with a size 4 needle. And so I ripped the whole thing back and I am starting again. So I'm using my Addi interchangeables. These are the 4-inch size. They're the shorter needles. They have a sharper tip, and I just felt like they were working better on the sweater. Actually, I shouldn't say that. I think I used my longer needles for the body of the sweater, and then I switched to my shorter needles. So I have a 5-inch set. I also have a 4-inch set. The 5-inch set actually has it doesn't have as sharp of needle tips, so for what it's worth. But anyway, so I have to knit this whole sleeve again, which is okay because I am not doing any decreases on the sleeves either. I knit this straight and then did a series of, I can't remember how many decreases I did, but I did enough to have 45, was that right? Nope, that's not right. 36. I knew I needed a group of 4 since I was doing a 2x2 rib. So I ended up doing enough decreases to have 36 stitches at the very end. And I think it looks really, really nice, and it fits her well. She's a little girl, and she didn't really need any arm shaping. So yeah, it ended up, it's a great knit. The yarn is beautiful to knit with, as handspun yarn is just, it's so wonderful to knit with. And so I will have one child's sweater done very soon, and I'm excited about that because I already have other ideas what I want to knit in the future, and getting the yarn ready. So I am full steam ahead with the sweater knitting this year, for sure. So I have one more item I want to share with you. I was going through my project bags, and as y'all know, I'm mostly a monogamous knitter, but every once in a while, I feel like as I get a little bit older, maybe I'm starting to have a couple more stray project bags with things here and there. So I noticed that I had this project bag, and it's a roomy project bag, and it has enough room that I've just kept a lot of yarn from projects here and there, and I haven't really cleaned it out. So I really need to clean that out, so I brought it here with all of my yarn so I can empty it out. But I think I shared these with you many months ago, but I thought I'd share it anyway. I had some socks in here. I actually have a pair that I finished a while back, and I don't remember if I shared them with you or not. I'm sure I shared the sock tube with you, but I finished a while back these socks, and haven't even taken them out of my project bag. Aren't these cute though? These are some stripy Christmas socks, and I really like how they turned out. I don't think I've shared these with you, but if I have, you can skip this part if you like. But I think this yarn was from the Yarn Jar, and I think I purchased it on Etsy a long time ago. I don't remember colors, or I don't remember really anything about it. And yeah, so I was happy to discover these. I kind of forgot that I had finished knitting them, and then I added a 1x1 rib, and I do know that this mini was dyed by Hey Sister Yarn Co., which was a fabulous yarn company that is sadly now not dyeing. So yeah, I had a mini skein from one of their sets, and it matched so well. So that is one pair of socks I was happy to find. I knit the main part of the sock on my Erlbacher Gearhart Speedster sock machine, which is how I do most of my socks nowadays. And then I found this sock, which was also in the bag, and I love the sock so much. I had nearly finished the sock. It had a couple of loose threads or yarn, that loose ends that just needed to be taken care of. Now I do know this sock because I remember dyeing this, and I just loved how it knit up so much. This was one of my end of the day colorways, and those are just non-repeatable colorways that I stock every now and again that use all of my leftover dye, and so they end up being just so fun, and they're just really, really pretty, unusual colors, and they're very fun knit up because they're just so different. So anyway, this was one of my end of the day colorways, and then this pink right here is Pink Hibiscus, which is just a really beautiful, kind of deep and vibrant pink. It's very pretty. So what I did on my sock machine, I'll just run through it real fast. I will also put the recipe down below in case you're interested, because you could replicate this on, if you were hand knitting, you could replicate it just fine. I use a 60 stitch cylinder for myself, and I have found just with my tension that it works really well. And so I use a 60 stitch cylinder, and I do a short row heel and then also a short row toe. And for those of you who may have not seen some of my kind of more in-depth explanations about sock machines, the short row heel and toe are the same. It's the same method, which is just ends up being very funny and unusual, and yeah, it's just one of the cool things about having a sock machine and knitting with one. So let's see, I don't know, I think I left the sock I'm working on now think I left it in the house. So here's that pink hibiscus that I'm working on or working with. I think it's just stunning. It's such a pretty color. I really, really love this color. So what I'm working on right now on the sock is that I think I just finished the cuff. The cuff just had like 2 more rows of 1x1 rib to do, and then the toe is not grafted. So basically when you take a sock off the circular sock machine, it has some, it's just open and it has some spare yarn, some waste yarn, and you just graft or basically Kitchener the stitches together across the toes. So not on the top of the toes, but across the top of the foot. Actually, it folds up and around the toes. So anyway, that was really fun. I have not knit socks in a long time, and it kind of got bit by the sock bug again, I think. So if I have spare time, I definitely am going to sit down at the sock machine and knit up some more socks. I should probably, well, I have plenty of yarn. I have plenty of yarn to knit some socks. So I have some great self-striping yarn over here, and I love knitting stripes on the sock machine. It's so fun. But yeah, I have yarn here as well that I could definitely knit up on my sock machine. But yeah, so that was fun. I also plan, after I finish the sweater for one of my daughters, I plan on knitting another pattern for another daughter. So she has been very vocal about wanting a poncho, and I knit another daughter a poncho a couple of years back now. So this one's gonna be a little different. I'll pop a photo here. It is textured and it is knit with an Aran weight yarn, so it should go by pretty quickly. I think it's a beautiful pattern. She wants more of a cowl neck than a turtleneck, so we'll see how that goes. I don't know. She is she's my 11-year-old, and she tends to be very exact about what she wants. So we searched for a pattern for quite a while until she settled on this, and she wants white, just undyed yarn. So I am grateful to her that she wanted some kind of texture, because it's going to be, I don't want to say boring with no color, it's just going to be less exciting. So I'm happy to oblige her that that's what she wants. She won't be able to wear it for quite a while because it is so warm here that we are not going to see cooler temperatures for quite a while, I'm sure of it. So hopefully when it's cooler later this year, she will still want to wear it. So that's really all my plans right now. I have been working a ton dyeing advent calendars. It has been so much work and interesting and gratifying to see all of my ideas come together. So right now I'm really in the thick of dyeing all of the yarn. It is a ton of work, and so I'm, especially with the heat right now, the heat is so much. My air conditioning out here in the studio is really struggling to keep up, and so you know, combine that with just dyeing is very hot, and so I'm just trying to let my body do what it can, and then just it'll all come in time. So I'm dyeing those up right now. I do still have some in the shop in case you're interested. I'll link it below. And I'm also dyeing up clubs too. So August clubs are closed, and those will go out very soon. And September's are now in the shop in case you're interested. And thank you to all who have purchased clubs and advent calendars. I truly appreciate it. And I hope they are bringing you a lot of joy and a lot of inspiration and fun knitting during these warm months if you're in the Northern Hemisphere. So that is really it for me this week. Thank you so much for joining me. And if you like this episode, I'd love if you'd give it a thumbs up. I will see you next week with another episode. But until then, I hope you have an awesome day. Bye.